So there is also a deposition from someone called Johanna Sjoberg, who was also hired as a sort of assistant to Epstein and then later was drawn into giving him massages. She was hired while she was a college student. And she says that Epstein told her that Clinton likes them young, referring to girls.
Prince Andrew and Bill Clinton are among the high-profile figures named in newly released court documents about the connections of sex offender and financier Jeffrey Epstein. The records have been released under the order of a US judge as part of a lawsuit related to Epstein's associate Ghislaine Maxwell. The papers include a previously reported claim of groping by Prince Andrew, which he has denied. And the Times' Will Pavier explains how Bill Clinton comes into the fray.
He's also brought up by Maxwell for her part and by Maxwell's attorneys as part of an effort to try and discredit Virginia Giuffre, because Virginia Giuffre alleges that Clinton went to the Caribbean islands that Epstein owned, and there doesn't seem to be any evidence of that. And so they sort of, partly Clinton is brought in to discredit Giuffre, although there is also a deposition from someone called Johanna Sjoberg, who was also hired as a sort of assistant to Epstein and then later was drawn into giving him massages. She was hired while she was a college student. And she says that Epstein told her that Clinton likes them young, referring to girls.
Yeah, there we go. While others are named in the papers, that's not necessarily a sign of criminality, as the former US Assistant Attorney David Katz has been explaining to us.
My understanding was that people like former President Clinton, former UN Ambassador Bill Richardson, who are mentioned in there many times, they went on these humanitarian flights to Africa to distribute aid, to make malaria drugs, all other sorts of things like that available. These were legitimate flights, and the in-kind contribution that was made by Jeffrey Epstein was to provide the plane. So if you were on his plane, it could have meant that you were going on humanitarian missions. It could have also meant that you made a side trip down there to this so-called sex island in the Caribbean. But where are the flight logs that back that up? The people who are trying to make hay out of it, they need to come up with some real evidence.
One of those many, many names that have appeared in these documents, which is just a sort of, it's a dump of documents, I think is the best way of thinking about it. But one is quite familiar to us in Britain, the late Professor Stephen Hawking. Epstein writes to his partner in crime, Ghislaine Maxwell, that she can offer money to friends of Virginia Giuffre if they can prove that allegations against Hawking are false. This is all from an email written in 2015 where the financier suggested that Miss Giuffre had claimed Professor Stephen Hawking participated in an underage orgy. There are photos of Stephen Hawking on Epstein's Caribbean island from back in 2006, but there's no evidence that we can see against him apart from this one brief mention in this email, which actually says the allegations are not true. And we're going to talk later to David Katz, who's the former US assistant attorney. And this question is, what do you do with this information? Because some of this information is just facts about people having an association, but there's no smoking gun, many are saying, that makes anything clear that something has gone wrong. So there's a whole bunch of names. And if you look at the internet, they've gone crazy about it because there's lots of conspiracy theorists, obviously connecting to Epstein. But I don't know what we're supposed to take from this, Kate, other than that here are some names and here are some claims about claims.
Yeah, and some people are saying that actually this has more to do with transparency in the justice system, in that these were documents related to this particular case which had been locked, and so none of us were able to see the detail of them. And actually what we're getting is the detail of what went on behind the scenes in that case. It's not a whole load of new cases which are likely to be taken forward. It's transparency relating to things that we already knew about. But for the people who are named, especially those who are named with no, as you say, no smoking gun, but no further information, it will be a very difficult read.
It will. And David Katz is he defends. He's both a former US assistant attorney who prosecuted people, and he also defends people now. So he's got quite a clear view on what's been going on. You can hear his analysis of the dump of documents after 7 o'clock this morning.